Okay, so picture this. You're at work, right? And you've been given this huge project, really important stuff. But here's the catch. The company policies, the ones you're supposed to follow, about as clear as mud.
Oh, I know that feeling. Talk about stressful. Right.
Totally. And that's exactly what we're digging into today, this whole idea of well-written policies and why they matter so much.
It's something we often overlook, isn't it?
For sure. And for this deep dive, we're taking inspiration from senior technical writer Curt Robbins. He wrote this really insightful piece on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
It really gets you thinking about how vital strong policies are in any organization.
And it's not just about, checking off those compliance boxes either.
Exactly. Robbins goes beyond that whole policies are just rules thing.
Which is so important because
He's arguing that when you have these clear, really well-defined policies, it actually helps people make good decisions.
it's like having a roadmap instead of just wandering around hoping for the best.
Right. And it helps mitigate risk. It actually boosts productivity.
There's a real ripple effect. I've seen it firsthand.
It's true. Think about it. When you don't have those clear guidelines, it's so easy to feel lost, maybe even a little paralyzed when you have to make a decision, right?
Absolutely. It just
Yeah.
creates uncertainty. And you know what uncertainty breeds? Inconsistency.
And that's a recipe for disaster in any organization.
Exactly. Robbins actually lays out 5 key roles that he thinks well-crafted policies can play in making a company successful.
And they make a lot of sense when you really break them down.
Yeah, they're spot on.
He talks about clarity and consistency, the legal and compliance side of things, risk management.
He even gets into how policies shape the whole company culture, the values,
It's all connected.
and how all of that actually contributes to things running more smoothly. Operational efficiency.
It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. Good policies can have that kind of impact, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But on the flip side, and Robbins makes this point too, when policies are poorly written, it can be worse than not having any at all.
Which is a scary thought.
It is. But we can circle back to that later.
Yeah, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. For now, let's focus on those 5 key roles that Robbins talks about, starting with this idea of clarity and consistency.
Which is huge because it's like where it all begins, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's on the same page.
Having that clear roadmap for everyone in the organization.
Yeah. It's like if you think about it, are you trying to navigate with like just a compass and a hunch? Or do you have a real map? With a clear map, at least you can be confident, okay, we're going in the right direction.
Exactly. And with good policies, they kind of act like that roadmap for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO or the new person, just starting out.
Right. Everyone's working from the same information.
Right.
And that actually ties into the second thing Robbins talks about, all that legal and compliance stuff.
Right. Got to make sure everything's above board.
Exactly. But it's not just about avoiding lawsuits and all that, although, hey, that's always a plus, right?
Right.
It's bigger than that. When you have these really solid policies in place, it builds this culture of compliance.
Where everybody knows the rules of the game. Right. Everyone understands the rules. They know why they matter. And it protects everyone. The company's protected. But it also protects you as an employee, too.
And that kind of naturally leads us to the next point Robbins makes, this whole idea of risk management. I really like the example he used in the article. He compared well-written policies to those bumpers you get at a bowling alley.
Oh, yeah. To keep you out of the gutter. It's such a great image.
It is, because, you might not always make that perfect shot.
Right. You're going to have a few gutter balls in life.
But those bumpers are there to keep you from, totally wiping out.
Exactly. And you can apply that same idea to the workplace. Those gutter balls could be anything, little mistakes, even huge PR nightmares, who knows. But the point is, the policies are there to
Minimize the damage. Exactly. And actually, there's another point that Robbins brings up here, which I think is really interesting. He says that having all these clear boundaries, it doesn't mean that people aren't creative anymore or that they can't innovate. If anything, it can actually encourage people to be even more innovative.
Because you know what the playing field looks like.
Yes, you know what you can and can't get away with.
Right.
So then you can start thinking, okay, how can we do things differently within these guidelines?
Right. You can take calculated risk.
Exactly. Once you understand the rules, that's when you can really start thinking outside the box in a way that's actually strategic.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about clarity, compliance, risk management. But Robbins doesn't stop there. He goes on to talk about how policies actually shape a company's culture and ethics, which is really interesting.
And this is where it gets even deeper than just, the day-to-day stuff. Because policies aren't just about what you're allowed to do or not allowed to do. They also show the values and the principles that are important to the company.
Right. It's like, how do we do things around here?
Yeah, exactly. And when those policies are well-written and they really reflect what the company stands for, it can create a shared sense of identity among the employees. Like, well, we're all in this together.
Like, this is what we stand for.
Right. And that leads into Robin's last point, which is all about operational efficiency.
So it all comes full circle. You start with these well-defined, easy-to-understand policies, and the end result is that everyone's on the same page, things run more smoothly. It's like having that really well-oiled machine, like we were talking about before, where everything just runs more smoothly when everybody knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, something that Robbins talks about, which I think is really important, is that it's not just about saving time or being more productive.
It's more than just checking things off the list.
Right. It's bigger than that.
Yeah.
He says that well-crafted policies can actually give employees the confidence to make decisions on their own,
Oh,
to be more proactive.
You don't need someone looking over your shoulder all the time.
Exactly. You don't need someone micromanaging every little thing because everyone's working from the same playbook. It creates this culture where people feel trusted and accountable.
Which is beneficial for everybody.
Absolutely. Everyone wins.
So really, these policies, they're kind of a big deal, wouldn't you say? It's just that we often don't really think about them too much. We kind of take them for granted.
And that's what Robbins is trying to highlight. That's his main point. We shouldn't see policies as these annoying things, these bureaucratic hurdles, but as tools that are really valuable. Tools that can actually make our work lives easier and more fulfilling.
Which brings us back to that point you made earlier about how sometimes a poorly written policy can actually be worse than not having one at all.
It's true. It sounds counterintuitive, but think about it. If the policy is confusing, if it contradicts itself, if it's just plain badly written.
It's just going to create more headaches for everybody.
Exactly. It's like trying to follow a recipe where half the instructions are missing or they're in the wrong order. You're going to end up with a mess. And I think we've all run into those kinds of policies at some point.
Yeah, totally. It's like you start reading it and you just end up more confused than when you started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, if you're thinking, okay, this is all great, but what about the policies at MY Work? What would you tell them?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, if something is unclear to you, chances are other people are probably thinking the same thing. And, you never know. By speaking up, you might start a conversation about how to make those policies better.
That's such a great point. We often just accept things as they are, but sometimes all it takes is one person to say, hey, can we maybe clarify this? Or what does this actually mean? That can start a whole dialogue.
Exactly. And if you're in a position where you're actually creating these policies or you have to revise them, take it seriously. This is your chance to make a difference. Think about clarity. Think about consistency. Think about what values you want reflected in those documents.
It's not just about the legal jargon. It's about creating a guide, a roadmap that helps everyone have a better experience at work, an experience that's more efficient, more fulfilling.
It's about making everyone's lives easier.
Exactly. Robin's article really got me thinking, what if every company had this, chief clarity officer?
Ooh, I like that. I like where you're going with this.
Right. Someone whose whole job is to make sure that every single piece of communication in the company, policies, emails, memos, everything, is crystal clear, super easy to understand, and it all reflects the company's values.
Talk about a dream job. No more trying to decipher those cryptic emails from HR or spending hours trying to figure out what the heck a policy actually means.
Right. It's such a simple idea, but it could completely transform how we experience work. It could make things so much better.
It's definitely something to think about. And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of well-written policy statements. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for these often overlooked documents.
And hey, maybe you'll even be inspired to spark a little clarity revolution at your own workplace, right?
Wouldn't that be something? Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, stay curious.